All right, let's wind the clock all the way back to the very beginning of the mobile revolution. We are going to tell the story of 1G, the technology that first planted a really simple but totally revolutionary idea in our heads. What if we could talk to each other without any wires?
I mean, just think about that device in your pocket right now. It's a tiny supercomputer, right? It feels like magic. But, before we could get any of that, we had to solve a much simpler problem first. How do you actually make a phone call without a phone cord attached to the wall?
For pretty much all of modern history, if you wanted to talk to someone far away, you were literally tethered to a wall by a cable. It worked, sure, but man was it limiting. Communication meant you had to be in one specific spot. The world was just itching for a change. And right into that wired-up world, a true technological pioneer arrived, making the first wireless calls a reality. And this wasn't just some small upgrade. No, this was a complete rethinking of what a phone could even be. This was the birth of true mobility.
So, what was this pioneer? Well, we call it 1G. It's short for the first generation of wireless cellular tech. And when it showed up in the 1980s, its mission was crystal clear and honestly pretty ambitious. Let people make voice calls, and only voice calls, from pretty much anywhere.
Now, the toolkit this pioneer had to work with was, well, incredibly simple. Everything was based on analog communication. We're talking the same basic idea as your car radio. It was built for one job and one job only, to carry your voice. So forget about texting or email or the internet. This was all about talking.
But how in the world did this analog engine actually work? I mean, how did it send a voice flying through the air? To get that, we've got to pop the hood and take a look inside to see how 1G made all this wireless magic possible.
Okay, so the whole process was actually pretty direct. When you spoke into the phone, your voice was turned into this continuous wave-like analog signal. Then, that signal got broadcast over radio frequencies, just like a radio station. The real trick, though, was figuring out how to keep thousands of calls from all crashing into each other.
And the secret sauce to that problem? It was a technique called FDMA, which stands for Frequency Division Multiple Access. Now, the absolute easiest way to think about this is to just imagine that every single phone call got its own tiny private radio station for as long as you were talking. So your call might be on 99.5 FM, and the person next to you might be on 101.1 FM. It was simple, but it was a really effective way to manage the airwaves.
But, like any trailblazer, 1G was far from perfect. As this new technology started to spread, it became super clear that being the first one out of the gate meant you had to deal with some serious growing pains and some pretty major flaws.
I mean, it was a revolution, for sure. No doubt about it. But just think about it for a second. You have an analog system broadcasting voices over the open airwaves in the 1980s. What do you think were its biggest weaknesses? Well, here are the big ones. The voice quality, it could be pretty terrible. Lots of static, lots of interference, and security, there was basically none. Because it was just an open analog signal, literally anyone with a cheap radio scanner could listen in on your private calls. And of course, it was a one-trick pony. There was absolutely no way to send any kind of data.
And yet, even with all these massive flaws, the idea was just too powerful to stop. This technology went global, but it was kind of a mess. You had all these different incompatible systems popping up. So you had AMPS in the US and then NMT and TAX over in Europe. And what that meant was that a phone from one place just flat out wouldn't work in another. A huge problem we would definitely have to solve later on.
So yeah, it's really easy to just focus on the flaws. But the real story of 1G is its legacy. Because for all its imperfections, this flawed giant laid the foundation for the crazy connected world we all live in today.
So when you weigh it all, on one side, yeah, you had a noisy, totally insecure system that could only do one thing, voice. But on the other side, you had its unbelievable legacy. 1G proved that the entire concept of cellular communication could actually work on a massive scale. It was the essential spark that started the whole fire.
You see, it didn't have to be perfect. It didn't need to be secure or clear or have a lot of features. It just had to work. It was that crucial, all-important first step out of the wired world. And by just taking that one step, it changed everything that came after. So 1G untethered our voices and it freed us from the wall, a truly monumental achievement. But it left this huge question just hanging in the air, waiting for the next generation of pioneers to solve. What was it going to take to untether our data too?